I came from the mud. There's dirt on my hands. Strong like a tree. There's roots where I stand. Oh, I've been running from the law. Hope they won't shoot me down soon.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back. We're going to be talking about this little fella right here today, and of course a little update on that one from the Mad Hatter of Glock triggers himself, Johnny Glocks. Now this has to be one of the most requested trigger videos I've had in a very long time. If you don't know who Johnny Custom Glocks is, check that guy out. You can look at all of his social medias. He is known as kind of like the Glock trigger whisperer. He does things with Glock triggers that pretty much nobody else out there can do, or at least does with all of the safeties intact, because that's one of the things that he harps on. He's a big safety guy because he's seen some things out there that have definitely made him a big safety guy. Now the setup you saw here in this 43X MOS is his full custom trigger kit. And then the other one is an updated combat conversion for the Timney to give it a little bit better of a pull weight, a higher pull weight for those that were a little bit sketched out by that 2.5 pound break. He maintained that hard wall, but he brought that break up to about 4.5, maybe 5 pounds to make it a little bit more consistent and a little bit more everyday carryable for the average person who doesn't want a super light trigger out of the box. Now that trigger is still wholly marketed by Timney as a competition only setup, but Johnny Glock's doing what he did. He took that thing to a level where more people could feel a little bit more comfortable in using that thing, even just out there for fun, but still making it, really a competition break with just a little bit more weight behind it. All right, we're gonna get into the Johnny Glocks custom triggers here. Before we go any further, we've got to bring out the F-bomb because holy F, this dude did some stuff on these things. Let's start with the 43X MOS right here. We'll talk about what we're gonna get with the kit. Obviously, in the full kit, you're going to get the trigger housing group, trigger bar, trigger shoe, connector, all of that stuff. You will get a couple of different striker spring with some instructions on it that kind of tell you what the weights are. I have the 4.5 pound spring in here, which is the one he said to use just based on the primers that are out there and available for ammo right now. And then in this kit, you get a different striker block safety and striker block safety spring. So taking a look at the shoe right here, some of you may kind of recognize that design. It does have the Johnny Glocks logo in it right there, if you can see that. That is actually a Ranger-proof trigger shoe that Johnny Glocks spent like 2 years helping design to get the perfect angles that he wanted. You'll see it has some set screws in there, some pretty good looking marks on it. And then of course that trigger shoe safety, you'll see that it goes all the way flush, and there is a nice amount of texture on the front of the trigger shoe safety. And then on the chamfered edges right here, that same texture follows all the way around. Let's talk about how it works here. So that is your wall. So you can see that take up is extremely short. So check the break right there. Reset. Okay, now going a little slower. Let's see how much creep we have. It is extremely minimal. So wall, break. He has managed to do an extremely nice job on this trigger. Let's go ahead and do some pulls here. Like I said, this is the heavier of the two springs. It still pulls, I want to say it's going to pull right there just about every single time. Very consistent, and it's been just a couple ounces under 4 pounds with that heavier spring in there, in my experience so far. Again, you can see almost the exact same place, about 4 pounds, or probably like, I don't know, 12 ounces, 4 pounds, 12 ounces, or excuse me, 3 pounds and 12 ounces. I think I said 4. That's about 3 pounds and 12 ounces. So it's pulling right under 4 pounds, extremely consistently. Again, that was about 3 pounds and 14 ounces on that one. So very consistent. Let's go ahead and break this down, and we'll talk about what he did to this. So the striker block safety in there is recontoured very, very slightly. So it looks like he just broke the edges of it to make it a little cleaner. So reducing that friction really does a lot for the feel and the actual pull weight. As far as everything else that you're gonna see in here, basically what he does is he has figured out exactly on every little point you know, whether it's the vertical extension of the trigger bar or back here on the cruciform where the lug locks in. He's figured out exactly where and how much material and how much polish he needs to do to make this thing really just feel absolutely great, especially when compared to factory setups. So everything in here is extremely high polished. You can see from the cruciform to the connector, even the ejector right there, very, very high polished. And it looks like he's actually broke all the edges, even on the ejector right there, and just made the thing just buttery smooth all over the place. So talking about the safeties in here, because that's the thing that everybody needs to pay attention to, and he harps on that all the time. You get this thing installed, and this is not armor school, this is not gunsmith school. These are just basic checks that you should do on every system that you have to make sure everything is functional, especially the Glocks. This trigger works differently than others, but some of the safety checks you need to do is when your trigger's in here pulled all the way against the frame like that, you need to make sure that the cruciform doesn't drop off the safety ledge right there, which this does not. Obviously you can pull it forward, make sure it doesn't either. The other things you're going to want to do is through the black plate or the back plate while it's in battery, is make sure that you have that good engagement on your striker lug and your cruciform right there. And then of course, make sure the connector is doing its job as far as that little click on the reset, right? That little click. So that connector helps reset your trigger. You need to make sure all those things are functional. So we'll go ahead and get this thing back together. And let's talk quickly about the combat conversion. His idea with this was the original Timney out of the box. It's a 2.5 pound competition trigger. That thing is amazing. He wanted to make it a little bit more everyday carryable for people, because 2.5 pound brake for a lot of people is going to be extremely light. So one of the things he was harping on was very consistent hard wall. So you can see me working it to the wall and then a brake. Now, good reset and a brake. The reason he wanted that nice defined hard wall and a higher brake was to allow people the opportunity to use what is probably one of the best triggers out there, but use it at a weight that is going to be, you know, more palatable to just, you know, everyday people. So that one, I think I slipped up a little bit, but you can see the pull on that one all went up to just under 6 pounds. That's pretty abnormal. So I'll make sure I get in the middle of that striker, or middle of that safety and the shoe. We can see right there, we've got a 5 pound brake on that one. And then try and get in about the same place. So I'm trying to pull in the middle of the shoe. Right there, you will see that broke at 5 pounds again. So pretty solid. You do get in this kit, you can see it's his combat conversion. You will get all that stuff. You get the different striker springs, you can tune it a little bit. And then you do have a little bit of adjustment again in the trigger housing group for the over travel. And then the Timney factory trigger shoe does have a little bit of adjustment in it as well. I left mine where the factory is. Well, let's go ahead and talk about the price of this stuff and how it performs out on the range. And like I said, we're gonna do an update video on the Timney itself a little bit later. Now that you know the finer details on that, let's throw some lead down range.
When it rains, it pours. Water's up to my chin. Won't stop fighting to the very end. Many men try to reach it. Many men have failed. Well, if you wanna get to heaven, you gotta raise it.
Well, that 43X trigger kit, now he offers this in several different models and versions and all that stuff. Check his website out for the most up-to-date pricing, all that. But what I can tell you is absolutely nailed it on this thing. Completely changes how that feels out there on the range. Still maintains that hard, crisp wall. Very clean break through that wall. Not much creep. You guys know I'm not a fan of rolling walls. It maintains all the safeties and just feels absolutely fantastic, especially compared to the gnarly factory triggers that the Slimlines come with. Now, if I had to find a negative with this trigger, it's going to be that it's going to cost you money and ammo to get used to it. This is a dramatic change from the factory Slimlines or even a factory full-size or compact trigger setup. You need to spend some time with out there and get very intimate with the changes in this trigger, because it will surprise you. if you're not expecting it. Now let's spend a little bit more money on ammo, what, like 50, 60 cents around a 9 right now, and check out a little bit of that combat conversion on the Timney. All right, well, we're not gonna go all the way into the Timney, but what I can tell you is it accomplished exactly what he was looking for. We brought that pull weight up to about 4.5, 5 pounds, somewhere in that range, which gives a lot of people a little bit more comfort, especially under stressful situations, to carry that Timney, which is just flat out probably the best kit out there on the market. The way it's been redesigned, it's still safe, gives you an amazing wall, gives you a great trigger feel, but the factory 2.5 pounds is a little bit light for most people out there that aren't expecting a break that clean, that solid, that light. So literally looking right now, because some of these kits just dropped. The combat conversion kit, he was selling for $72. So that's gonna come with your springs, and that's going to come with the trigger housing group with the adjustment for over travel. It's currently sold out, but $72. As far as the X drop in trigger kit for the other one, you're looking right at 200 bones for that trigger kit that is in that 43X. That may be a little bit expensive for Glock triggers, but when you look at what's being done to them and what you're getting with it, you need to understand you are definitely getting what you pay for when it comes to the Johnny Glocks custom triggers. The only real question that is left is, can your wallet handle either 72 bucks for that combat conversion or 200 bones for that full-on kit? He did send these out to the channel to test for free, which I give him a huge thank you for, because especially that 43X is absolutely excellent. And that combat conversion brings that Timney kit into a much more usable range for probably 80% of people out there carrying a Glock. Well, that is what I have for you all today. I hope you liked learning about not only the combat conversion and that 43X kit, which is available for different models and sizes. Check his website out, Johnny Glocks. You Google the dude, all his stuff is gonna come up. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, turn the bell notification icons on. Definitely give the video a like if you're into any of it. We will have a more updated video on the Timney where I'll be testing out the Gen 5 version and testing, of course, a little bit more in the aftermarket frames to make sure that that thing is gonna perform just like it does in a factory frame with anything else. That video will be coming very soon. So until then, leave me a comment down below on what your thoughts are on these setups. I am digging it, and I'm probably gonna get myself one for my 19 or my 17. You guys get out there, enjoy some range time, have some fun, conserve that ammo, but hopefully Remington's back in the game on ammo now. Hopefully that's gonna give us a little bit of pressure release on the ammo game. And remember, if you stay ready, you ain't gotta get ready. I will see you guys on the next one.